Success is not a point. Success is a path. Success is not a point. Success is not something you reach and you're finished. Success is a path. And what happens along that path is different events. So the leadership mindset is one where it's an ongoing sense of development. The second thing is, leaders realize that all of these points ultimately are connected. Two qualities. One is leadership is an ongoing journey. Second quality is everything is connected. This symbol is an ancient symbol in many cultures that represents connection and ongoing, because no matter where you start, you always come back again. It also represents a very nice bank you might be familiar with in this country. I should be paid by them, I think. So the mindset is one that is connected. So let's explore this a little bit further. One of the qualities is to see that it's an ongoing journey. Second quality is that things are connected. Now let's talk about some of the pitfalls, some of the challenges. This story comes from when I was growing up in Ireland, and we were living on a particular street in Ireland, and we had a dog, and this is my dog. You can clearly see this is a dog, right? Dog. This is my dog in Ireland, and our dog had a very bad habit of chasing cars. Now, that's what cars looked like in Ireland in the 1980s, right? Since then, some Italian gentlemen have made them a little bit more smooth. The point is, our dog had a bad habit chasing cars, until one day he was hit by a car. Not good. However, we took him to the vet. The vet put one of these things around his head. His bark got louder, and he recovered. And he learned really quickly never to chase cars again on that street. Instead, he chased them on this street. We can laugh at the dog. Yet all too often, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the pitfalls that we fall into, right? So in psychology, and what I love about the presentations that we're hearing today is that there's so much emphasis on psychology. Tina, for example, is highlighting how do you empathize with your clients, right? So if we talk about mindset, this is all psychology. One of the pitfalls that we have is that we copy what the dog does, and this is called first order learning. First order learning is where we learn, but we don't really learn. An example is, we are sailing a ship. Wow, that's impressive. Was that me? All right, so are we okay? I was sailing a ship, we are sailing a ship. That's okay. We're sailing a ship. We sail the ship faster, more economical, towards the iceberg. This is first order learning. First order. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Is it my beard? No, it's not me. That's interesting. Second order learning is where we make change to the system. Right? The dog did first order learning. He just changed the things within the system. Second order learning is where you change the system. In business, we talk about the word change. Is that me? That's not me. Is it Mark? Mark, what are you doing? That's okay. So, first order change is change within the system. Second order change is change to the system. Right? The psychology of leaders, successful leaders, is they look for second order learning. They work to get second order learning. Now, how do we do that? Let's explore. Right. Now, This is where I think we are now. This is the past, and this here is the future. It is possible to analyze the past. Is it possible to analyze the future? Nope. We could create a scenario. We could project, we could envision, we could imagine. It is not possible to analyze the future. We have to, what I would call, design the future. Successful leaders operate in this space. Those who are on the floor doing things spend time here, and the leader helps them move over here. A leadership mindset is a mindset that is future orientated. Now, this requires a new set of skills, because I can tell you, we are really good at analysis. Generally in society, we're really good. How good are we at design? How good are we at creating the future? There's a skill set that's needed in this. And I'd like to explore that skill set with the following story. This is a story that you need to do with your children, with your colleagues, and everybody who wants to explore creativity. This story is about a shark. Now, this is a shark. Right? And in front of the shark is a fish. It's a very cute fish. The fish's name is Nemo. And the shark's name is Bruce. Well done. You've watched this movie 1,000 times with your children, I know. Now, Bruce and Nemo were very good friends, except suddenly Bruce is about to eat Nemo. Not good. Draw something that saves Nemo. Quickly, sir. Quickly, save Nemo. Excellent. What is that? It's a net in between. Wonderful. Draw something that saves Nemo. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Excellent. Draw something that saves... Lionel, save Nemo. Quickly. What is that? That's a gun. And what does the gun do? It shoots the shark. Excellent. Draw something that saves Nemo. Quick, quick, quick. Quick. What's that? Okay, we catch the shark. We can do something to the shark. Any ideas, sir? No? What would you do?
Draw a mother for a Nemo.
Draw a what?
Mother.
A mother. And what is... Great. Yeah, draw a mother, Paul. Yeah, sure. This is a mother. Right. And what does the mother do? It saves the child. Now, any other ideas? Give the shark something to eat. Such as? A what? Vietnamese food. Such a random answer. Are you hungry, sir? Get this man a sandwich. What we will do is, we could say another fish. Right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this story represents the 4 ways of solving any problem. The 4 ways of solving any problem is summarized in this story. How excited are we? Yeah. All right. So, the first way of solving any problem, number 1, get rid of the problem. Excellent. This is an American approach, as we might recognize all too often. If you have the bigger stick, use the bigger stick. Now, what happens in society when you can't get rid of the problem? Such as life, right? The second way of solving any problem is, thank you, sir, you put something in between to prevent it from happening. There's an industry that's called law. If we have a legal contract, you have an obligation, I have an obligation, and that prevents certain things from happening, right? The third way of solving any problem is to get your mother involved. Or your mother-in-law. Hang on, the problem's got bigger. What's happening? So, the third way of solving any problem is protect what's important. In business, there's a whole concept that's called competitive advantage or barriers to entry. So you make an object so good, so well, so efficiently, it's very difficult for other people to do that, right? The fourth way of solving any problem is represented up here with this. This represents the key concept of alternative. The fourth way of solving any problem is to create an alternative. Now, watch this. You've heard the concept of in-the-box thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, option number 1, 2, and 3 is in the box. In the box, 1, 2, and 3 is first order learning. You are moving the elements that exist around. Now there's options for solutions there. I can tell you, however, the challenges that we face in our world today are not going to be found within that box. They need to be found by stepping outside the box, by focusing on alternatives. Right. Out of the box thinking. What the hell does that mean? Create alternatives. Creativity. What does that mean? Create alternatives. We need to be more innovative. What does that mean? Create alternatives. Your key job description is create alternatives. Right. Let's look. Look. How do you create alternatives? How do we do this better? How do we do this different? There's a red box around one of these. That is in the box. We are very good at taking what we're doing and incrementally making it better. It tends to be a very practical thing for us to do. It's important, and I can tell you, it is not as important as asking, how do we do this different? What does it mean to be creative, to be innovative, to have an innovation mindset? It means create alternatives. How do you create alternative? Ask one question, how do we do this different? Got it? Creativity, innovation, there's a whole science and art around this. We could go deep into this if we had more time. For now, I want to give you just that one light bulb moment. When you're focusing on what you're doing, just ask for a moment, how do we do this different? Now, I have the honor and the pleasure of meeting and interviewing successful people around the world. And through those interviews, I kind of go deep into what is it that they're doing? How do they do things? And I want to share with you the one thing, as it were, that is parallel, that the line that goes throughout all of them is this. It's one word, and it is adaptive. Organizations that are successful are adaptive. Leaders that have a successful mindset are adaptive. Now, adaptive means flexible, agile, right? There's different words perhaps we could use for this. In fact, there's books and there's philosophies that come up with an agile organization. There's also methodologies such as Scrum. Some of you may have heard about this type of stuff. Ultimately, they're all coming back to this, being adaptive. What does this mean? I want to give you two qualities to what it means to be adaptive in an organization. The first quality is companies that are adaptive are disciplined in being adaptive. Companies that are adaptive and successful, they're not adaptive on a Friday evening for a Friday afternoon. They're actually adaptive the whole time. They're focusing on being adaptive. One of the groups of people that I've interviewed who are fascinating was a group of US Marines, right? They're exactly as you think they are, by the way. They're big, they're focused. This group of US Marines that I was interviewing, now if we take away the politics and war and all of that, let's just look at the mindset, right? One of the things is they've such a dedicated mindset. And I asked them, what is it like when you go into battle, when you go into an intensive situation? How do you rise to the occasion, right? And they laughed. They said, Paul, obviously you've never been in battle. I said, no, thank you. They said, we do not rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our training. They are disciplined in being adaptive. They are disciplined in it. Tina's highlighting, obviously, a lifelong journey that we have with our clients. And what resonates with me is certainly the idea of where we accompany our clients through difficult times, right? And I wonder, what is the habits that we want to form in the mind of our clients? What is the discipline we want to help them with to be adaptive in those difficult times? The second thing is, companies that are adaptive are not only disciplined, but they're also prepared. Now what that means is they are prepared to be adaptive. Whatever package they're offering their clients at the moment, they know what's going to change. Whatever client base they have at the moment, they know it's going to change. So when they work on a strategy or package, they design into it change. Change is not something that happens to them. Change is something that they build in. Does that make sense? So, let's bring this back. Bring it back. Who here watched Formula One racing? Right? For those of you who don't, it's basically... Testing. I don't have a microphone, sir. Something happened. How is my voice when I project it to the gentleman at the back? What? Not good. I'm going to need a hands-free solution. Yeah, because I have to draw, sir. So I'll use this while we get another mic. Can we get another mic? This is working. This is working now? There you go, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So, Formula One racing basically is cars going around in a circle. When you look closer, it's all strategy. It's all strategy, mindset, strategy. And what I love about studying Formula One leaders in the way that they work, was something that came up a few years ago, and it's now called the Formula One question, right? I love it. There was one of the leaders of one of the successful Formula One teams was famous for asking one question, right? So his engineers would come to him and say, we want to do such and such with the engine of the car. Can we do it? And he would say, does it make the car go faster? Yes, you can do it. No, you can't do it. Guess what? The marketing team came to him and said, we want to extend our budget to do such and such. And he asked them, does that make the car go faster? Nope, then you can't do it. What is your Formula One question? What is the one question that brings it all back to the essence? Right? Now, personally, I think that life is more complex than having one question. So personally, I have Formula One questions for different parts of my activity. However, in each part, I have one question. What's your Formula One question? This is something that the military ask. This is one of their Formula One questions. How do we create How do we create new designs for microphones? Oh, there we go. How do we create habits of action? So the military focuses on discipline, habits. One of the experiences that I have is that whatever the landscape is out there and the environment and the ecology and the economy is, the clients that I work with who are successful have a discipline independent of that environment. They're focused. So how do we create habits of action? That, I believe, is going to change some of the rules. And I want to explore with you how the landscape See, Christian, what do you think? Is there a Bigfoot arriving? Am I doing something I shouldn't? We'll keep going, right? The landscape is changing and power is shifting in the world, right? Look at this. This is a story about an Irish man in a bar, so you know where we're going, right? So there was an Irish guy who walked into a bar, and behind the bar was one of those things. Yeah, this, as you can clearly see, is an Irish parrot. If you've never seen what an Irish parrot looks like, this is what they look like, right? So 3 Irish parrots, right? So the Irish guy goes into the bar, he walks up to the barman, and the barman says, I said, what's with the parrots behind the bar? And the barman says, well, they're for sale. And the guy says, really? How much is it for the first parrot? And he says, well, that's €1,000. €1,000. What does he do? The barman says, well, he talks. And sure enough, he talks. A slight Irish accent, right? But he talks, right? Then he says, well, what about the second parrot? And he says, well, the second parrot is €2,000. €2,000. What does he do? He says, well, he talks and he dances. This is the universal symbol for dance. And he dances. River dance, waist up and waist down. So, he asks, what about the third parrot? And the barman says, that's €5,000. €5,000. What does he do? The barman says, I have no idea, but the other 2 call him boss. Right. I tell this story in large organizations where the CEO is sitting right in front of me. And what happens is the audience turns to look at him. And if he laughs, they laugh. Now, we're definitely exploring how the microphone works. Is it back up again? Yeah. Yeah, all right. The essence of this story really is to suggest power is shifting in the world. The hierarchy of power is shifting. It used to be that indeed we had a hierarchical structure in society where those at the top would tell others what to do, right? That is now coming back, and the individual is now having power. There's a friend of mine who is a amateur photographer, and he bought a very expensive Canon camera, right? And 2 days after the guarantee, it broke. He brings it back to the shop. The shop says, "I'm sorry, sir, it's out of guarantee." He was really annoyed. So he sent a tweet. Within a few hours, Canon contacts him. "Excuse me, sir, what seems to be the problem?" They discuss it, they replace his camera, and like a good social media person, he retweets. The individual brings the global organization to its knees. Power has shifted in the world. Based on technology, what we can do with these things, power is totally shifted. This means we need a new way of acting, right? Now, this is an exercise that I do within organizations, and it's always entertaining to see what happens. Imagine you are at point A, and you have a collection of bricks at point A. You need to get the bricks from point A to point B. Yet you can't leave point A. What do? Throw the bricks. Excellent, sir. Right? Easy. Same scenario. You're at point A. And over here is point B. This time, however, instead of having bricks, you have words. Right? These are words. Yeah. Notice they don't have the fluffy thing. You're point A. You can't leave point A. You have to go to point, you have to get them to point B. What do? Fold the paper. Love that. That's probably the most creative answer I've had so far for this question. Well done, Lionel. What else could you do? Sorry? Let them fly. Okay, they're going to fly. They're going to go everywhere. What else? Throw food. Brilliant. Love it. So what you do is you throw food over here, and what happens? They will follow. One of these is management. One of these is leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a new skill set. Who here speaks French? What is the French word for the place that you train horses? Anybody know? A manège. Right? Which means, oh, those, right? Yeah. And is it Dutch or is it French? Yeah, bon appetit, everybody, right? It's interesting from what culture we take what words, right? The word manage comes from the French word to train horses. I believe, therefore, there's only two things we should manage in the world: horses and objects. Everything else we need to lead. The mindset that we need as leaders is in
this space here. How are you, sir?
I'm going to sit next to you and try and stick close to you.
That's nice. I like. Thank you. I feel comforted. I feel slightly invaded, excited, scared. I don't know how I feel. So thank you. So great. Oh yeah. First for everything. So just ignore the microphone in your face, right? So just ignore it. So we need new leadership styles, right? Here is a story, right? One of my favorite stories. This story comes from America. It's about an architect, and she was asked to design a university campus. So this is the overview of the university campus. So she designed a building here, she designed a building here, she designed a building here. 3 buildings. When she had finished the buildings, people were very pleased. However, were very surprised because she didn't put down any paths. Instead, she planted grass. What happened? What happened after 1 semester? Yes, sir. So, paths were formed. Paths were formed, and none of those paths were straight. What she then did was she then paved the paths, keeping the integrity of the curve. This is how we need to work. What I love about this story is, what I love about this story is the fact it highlights we still need experts. She was the expert. She did not ask the public about the structural integrity of the building, right? What she did do, however, was she created a space for them to come in, right? I am not expecting you to leave the financial security with the clients. That's your job. The question is, where can you open your processes so that your client comes in? Right? Thank you, sir. So, there's a story from science that involves another circle, and this story is about a cell, like you'd have in the body, right? A cell. And what science used to say was that the most intelligent part of the cell was the nucleus. However, what they have now told us is that the most intelligent part of the cell is the skin, the membrane, because it is the skin that decides what should stay out, what should go in, and when something goes in, it's digested by the nucleus before it goes out again. How do we structure our businesses? Are we still structuring our business so that the nucleus is telling the edges what to do? Unfortunately, yes, that's the majority of top-down organizations. Leadership mindset. Leaders who are adaptive, they embrace the edges. They empower the edges. They allow the individuals to form their paths. Make sense? All right. So, let's go a little bit further. There's something I want to highlight is the fact that most of my inspiration comes from nature, right? This is one of my greatest sources. So I read, I study nature, and then I study the business world, but I apply what I've learned in nature to the business world. Here's a story from nature. it's about ants. If you have an ant colony, what will happen is ants will go out until they find something such as an apple that they then come back and tell the whole colony, here, go get the apple, right? And then what happens is the whole colony goes out, finds the apple, and so on, right? Very efficient. However, in every ant colony, there's a group of weird ants, right? You know who they are. There's a group of weird ants that don't follow the path. One of them wanders off and finds nothing. There's another one that wanders off and finds nothing. Then there's another one that wanders off and finds the whole picnic basket where the apple came from. We need structure. We need analysis. And we need to find spaces where we open that up to creativity, where we open it up to other people come in and break the system. We can ask ourselves, how do we do this better, more efficiently? And we can also ask ourselves, how do we do this different? Right? Thank you, sir. So let's swiftly move on. Thank you, sir. Thank you. There's only one question we need to ask. This is it. How do we ask better questions? There's a very successful friend of mine. He's running a very successful business. And I ask him about the people that he employs. And he says he never looks at CVs. He never looks at what they've done before. He simply meets them. And based on the quality of the questions they ask about his business, he will decide to go with them or not. The quality of questions defines the quality of your results. Tina's highlighting this already, right? Your client's sitting there in front of you, they need help. They need help from you to guide them through a set of questions. One of the things that you might see here is the fact that this here, that point represents, that point represents the answer. This arrow represents the question. Answers are static. Questions are dynamic. Answers are static. Questions are dynamic. Often, when I have time around these great successful individuals, they have what you could call a leadership style that is based on asking questions, not based on giving answers. So what are the questions we need to ask, and how do we guide our clients through those questions? Thank you, sir. So, the mindset. The mindset that we're talking about is a mindset that understands innovation. So let me give you a model of innovation. If you have an individual, there are two qualities to innovation I want to explore. One is based on ideas. And when we speak about innovation, we often speak about ideas. What's the idea? However, what is spoken about less, and what I find is more important in innovation, is ideals, ethics, principles, values. Too much of our innovation is spent in that space there. You see that space? Too much of our effort is spent in that space. It's a great idea, but questionable ethics. So apparently because I'm married, I can join a dating site. What? What? One of the things that is a starting point, I mentioned this in the last presentation, which was the journey is inwards, right? You start with yourself before you consider your client. You start with yourself. And similarly, when I deal with clients, the first thing that we do when we talk about innovation is to make sure there is a strong foundation of ideals. Why are we doing what we're doing? It is not about coming up with a clever investment scheme. It is about fulfilling the needs of our clients. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we've now reached the end of our role. This is the last thing before we recap. There we go. You're wondering where the arrow left, huh? A vision is a place, not a point. Thank you. We often speak about, in business, the concept of a vision. A mission, a vision, direction of travel. And I want to remind us that a vision is not a point. A vision is a place. Who here has worked in Dubai or with anybody from Dubai? Okay. Who here has been to Dubai? Okay. Who here has flown over Dubai? Right? Most people I know say, well, I was in the airport. I do some consultancy work in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and in Dubai we have what I would consider one of the most visionary leaders in the world today. His name is His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. You all know him well. And wonderful individual. Now what's fascinating about this is that the culture, of course, is that it is hierarchical. It's a kingship, right? Yet his job description, he says, is, if the people are not happy, I'm not doing my job well. How many of our politicians follow that, huh? Sheikh Mohammed was interviewed 10 years ago by a journalist, and the journalist said, Sheikh Mohammed, you have achieved great things for this country. How much of your vision have you succeeded with? 10 years ago. And he said, 10%. She says, wow, this man obviously has a vision. Recently, 10 years later, he was interviewed by the same journalist. He's now built the tallest tower in the world, developed downtown Dubai, international trade. She says, how much of your vision have you now succeeded with? And he says, 7%. She said, what? I'm confused. You've achieved so much more and you're saying less. And he said, the greater our achievements, the broader our horizon. Wow. Wow. Watch out, world, right? A vision is not a point that you reach. A vision is a place, and it grows with you. The leaders and the mindset that we're talking about, successful leadership, is a mindset that expands with their success. A vision has to be big enough for the place we're moving into. So, if you'd be kind enough, sir. Let us re-roll. Let us recap. Let us remind ourselves over what we're speaking about. A mindset of successful leadership is one that understands innovation. And innovation is not just about ideas. Innovation really is about understanding how to get to that place. Right? It's the balance between ideas and ideals. Then it is about leaders who drive what they do by asking questions, not by finding answers, by asking questions. It's also interesting for us to reflect on what happens in nature. And by the way, yesterday I was speaking to 1,300 primary and secondary school teachers in Holland, which is fantastic. And we're speaking about the future of education. And we're talking about what was called a problem child. You know, these difficult ones who are in the classroom, how do we deal with them? I was a problem child. I had a lot to say on this. But what I was highlighting was it is not about the fact that this is the person who's different. What I want to emphasize is a successful leader has both qualities. They have the disciplined mindset to be continuous, practical, while they also ask different questions. So it's about doing both. It's not about one or the other. The other thing that they do so well is that they embrace the edges. They find a way of operating around the edges that comes back in. There's hierarchy in nature. We need hierarchy. The roles that we play, however, in hierarchy need to be redefined. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's the way we need to function in society. I gave this task to a group of engineers one time, and I asked the engineers for this, and they told me the angle of efficiency to throw the bricks at, right? Then when I gave them this task here, without blinking, they said, kill the birds, throw them. Brilliant. Power shifted from the hierarchy of top-down into individuals. We have to find a way of embracing individuals. How do we create habits of action? So a habit of action is the type of thing that is in the mindset of Formula One drivers, Formula One leaders. They're focused, totally focused. It's the habit of the training that takes place within the military. Discipline. They sink to the level of their training. If there's one question, ladies and gentlemen, it's to ask ourselves, how do we do this different? We're good at asking, how do we do this better? How do we do this different? That creates the framework for alternatives. This is our job description, to create alternatives. When we create alternatives, we are designing the future. Our politicians need to be doing that. It's about second-order learning, stepping out of the system. It's making sure we're doing better than the dog, which brings me back to our starting point. Shall I conclude? Lylan, have you got anything else to say? Oh, you're good. Shall I conclude? The mindset of leaders is based upon being adaptive. This is the key quality, being adaptive. However, being adaptive means they're also disciplined. That says disciplined at the end. You see that? Disciplined. They're disciplined in being adaptive. And they are also prepared to be adaptive. So, they are adaptive, they're disciplined, they're prepared to be adaptive. They ask 3 questions. 3 questions. The first question that they ask is, what are the habits that we want to create to be disciplined? The second thing that they do is they ask, how do we ask better questions so we're prepared to be adaptive? And finally, what they do is they ask, how do we do this different to be adaptive? This is the mindset that I believe is the red line that goes throughout all of the successful leaders that I've met Independent of industry, independent of personality, independent of style. They're adaptive, they're disciplined, and they're prepared. This, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is what makes the 80% of success. Thank you very much.